Not long after I started following Jesus, I wanted to be like Dave. Who's Dave, you might be wondering? Well, Dave was the guy in our church who, well, he had the cute girlfriend, he dressed well. He was the guy that the pastor and the youth pastor used to ask to do everything. And so as I looked around in my new faith, I wanted to be like Dave. I wanted to be that guy. The problem was I learned not long after that Dave was a different person behind closed doors. In fact, Dave was the opposite of the guy that I really wanted to be. Now, I think of Dave when I think of Simon the Sorcerer in Acts chapter 8. This is not Simon Peter, this is Simon the Sorcerer, the magician. He was a guy who seemed to have it all. People paid attention to him. His skills were second to none. And then Philip the deacon, not Philip the apostle, Acts chapter 8 is kind of all about what God is doing through Philip. But Philip shows up and he starts sharing the gospel. From what we read in the narrative, he's not flashy, he's not fancy, he doesn't pull camels out of wineskins, things like that. Instead, Philip shares the gospel. He tells people how they can be saved through Jesus Christ. And suddenly everyone seems to be surrendering themselves, submitting themselves to God, and they're being baptized, and this includes Simon. But here's where it gets a little tricky. Peter and John and the other apostles who were in Jerusalem, well, they hear what's happening in Samaria, and they were excited because Samaria was not, the Samaritans weren't Jewish people. They had intermarried a long time ago. It's a huge backstory that we don't need to get into. But Peter, Simon Peter, and John, they went to Samaria. And they investigated, they talked to people, they saw faith was real, and they started praying for people and laying their hands on them. And people were receiving the Holy Spirit. Now, Simon the Sorcerer, he sees this and he says, well, I'd like to be able to do that. And so he goes to Peter and he says, hey, how much do I have to pay you to be able to do that? See, this tells us something about Simon's heart. He got caught up in the movement of the gospel without having the heart change of the gospel. And so Simon, Dave, insert the name of your favorite celebrity or sports hero or that person you know that seems to be caught up in the gospel, but there's no heart change. There's nothing on the inside. Well, we have to wonder what's going on there. And instead of the free gift of grace, these folks seem to be pursuing things for earthly gain and using their financial wealth or fame, whatever it might be, for their own prosperity rather than the things of God. The Apostle Paul addresses this a little bit in his fourth chapter of his second letter to the Corinthians. He tells them that these bodies of ours, these are jars of clay. They're temporary shells. They're going to fail us. But eternal things, those things are not seen. They're the unseen things. Those are the things that really matter. Simon the magician, he was willing to pay Peter a lot of money so that he could get back the fame, the attention, the things that he valued. And for that greed, Peter rebuked him. It was a very, very stern rebuke because Peter knew what was going on inside of Simon's heart. The rebuke said, look, Simon, you become bitter, you become a slave to your money. And here's my point. May it never be said about us that we have become slaves to our money, that we put profit before people. May it never be said that we put goods over the gospel. When we enter through those giant pearly gates someday, may we hear those beautiful words from God. May we hear those words, well done, my good and faithful servant. You were faithful. What I gave you, you used for my glory and not for your own. So enter into the joy of your master.